What's going on, everybody? I'm Matt Harmon. Welcome to the Yahoo Fantasy Forecast, and it is a hell of a day to talk ball. We have an awesome Week 5 Sunday slate to run through here on the show. We have first-time co-host on the pod, Joel Smith, is going to join me in just a moment to recap everything that you need to know from the early and afternoon Sunday slate. But before we get to that, we have to do the solo Sunday night football recap, and we've got a big one to talk through. A nice little cherry on top to what was a really fun Sunday. Patriots 23, Bills 20. I mean, the Drake Maye era, it was already clearly arriving. That thing is all the way here. The train is in the station. Okay, man, this was the announcement of, God, the voice of Scott Pianowski's ringing in my freaking ears from the Vegas show where he was just lauding the New England Patriots, what they were going to be this year, this new version with Mike Vrabel and Drake Maye, and how they were going to win 8.5 games. And to be fair, I wasn't totally out on anything he was saying. I was just stunned at the pure homerism that he was exuding. And yet, once again, Scott Pianowski, smart guy, I think he was right. This Patriots team looks pretty damn good, and it is all on the back, not all on the back, but a vast majority of the credit has to go to their second-year quarterback, Drake Maye, who, man, what an awesome, awesome game here. Not perfect. It's never going to be perfect. But, man, the guy is an incredible football player. 273 yards passing, 9.1 yards per attempt, 73% completion rate. He only takes 4 sacks. And if you watched this game, you know that he was in danger of taking a lot more than 4 sacks. He was constantly moving around in the pocket, flushed to his right, and was money when rolled out from the pocket. We're recording this truly like right after the game, so I don't have the numbers on this. Maybe I can look this up on the fly here. You know, there's a lot of data at the fingertips. I'm sure that I can find it, but man, this was just one of those games where he was consistently out of the pocket, rolling to the right, and was absolutely electric. Okay, so that to me is just a guy that shows that he's got the juice. He's got the ability to put together a strong attack here. So okay, this is the numbers I'm looking at right now. I don't know if they're fully updated, but 75 yards out of the pocket tonight for Drake Maye. 15 dropbacks, 75 yards. He really made it happen. I don't even know if that's fully updated. 7.9 adjusted yards per attempt. Strong outing for Drake Maye when flushed out of the pocket. He smoked the Patriots on a lot of those situations. I was just come away from this really impressed with him. The poise, the efficiency, taking what's there. And I can't believe I haven't said his name yet. Stefon Diggs on the other end of those passes, man. Diggs looks incredible right now. And his chemistry with Drake Maye has really been evolving. And I mean, look, Steph has done this, right? Drake Maye, the archetype of quarterback that he comes from is the Josh Allen archetype. I don't know if he's going to end up being as good as Josh Allen or whatever, but very similar archetype. And Diggs, in his best years in Buffalo, obviously he's an elite route runner, elite separator, wins at all 3 levels. You know the whole deal. If you followed my work, if you followed reception perception, you know that when he was at his peak in Buffalo and even back in Minnesota, he was truly one of the 2 or 3 best separators and route runners in the NFL, period, full stop, end of story. But the other thing that he did really well is on the scramble drills, he'd find grass, he'd uncover, and he would just be where Josh Allen would want him to be. You saw that multiple times tonight where the chemistry between Drake Maye and Stefon Diggs is really heating up, especially on those off-script moments. He just knows how to uncover, knows how to find grass, throws the hand up, and Drake Maye is totally comfortable finding him. The one play, I believe on the last drive, where Drake Maye is in the grasp of Daquan Jones, getting dragged down by his shoulder pad, by the front pad here on his chest. He just finds Stefon Diggs, again, who's right where he needs to be, takes the catch, gets first down, boom. That happened all night long. And I think what we've seen the last 2 weeks with Stefon Diggs, who talked about on the show last week, the first few weeks of the season, I didn't think Diggs looked great on tape, and they were having him just run like a lot of these little quick hitters. But it was kind of easy to say, hey, let's give it a minute. He's still, as we're taping this right now, is not a year removed from his week 8 ACL tear of last season. It was going to take a little minute to get him ramped up, and it was clear that the Patriots were having him play in a part-time role, wasn't on the field for all the snaps, all the routes, all the passing game stuff, whatever. He also, like I said, run a lot of quick hitters, was not consistently separating on those plays. The last 2 weeks, the story has been completely different. He looks like a night and day player from where he was in week 2 or whatever. He is on the field for all of the passing down work right now. He's running all the routes. Again, not on every single play, but damn near every single play. And what's most important that we can see is that he looks great in isolation. Last week against the Carolina Panthers, just consistently found soft spots in zones, just sat there, showed his numbers to Drake Maye, and those two guys were just on it consistently against zone coverage. But there were also 2 plays against the Panthers where he was targeted in man coverage, where I also thought he separated really well in week 4. And gets these 2 catches for over 60 yards in man coverage. And that's where Diggs takes this whole thing to another level, because I think the Patriots have some nice supporting role players, and they're getting a lot out of their tight ends right now. Hunter Henry, once again, 2 catches for 46 yards. He had a couple of clutch receptions in this one. Kayshon Boutte, I think, has played well as sort of a sacrificial X receiver, but a guy that not going to be a high volume difference maker in fantasy. Like I said, after week 1, I thought that game was a little bit fluky, was maybe harsh, but not something you can set your watch to. You're going to get that every week because he's not that type of separator. Diggs right now is that type of separator. Man coverage, zone coverage, all 3 levels. He's not the same. People were asking me this during the game tonight. Well, where has his game kind of declined from his peak? And to be fair, this is the thing with receiver decline that's kind of tough to talk about and kind of tough to predict what the next step is going to be, because it sounds weird to say this after he had 10 catches for 146 yards on 12 targets. Diggs is still a diminished player from his peak. But his peak was, to me, one of the 3 best receivers in pro football when he was at the height of his powers with the Buffalo Bills. He was truly an elite tier 1 receiver. And I think his final year in Buffalo, he took a step back, but he hasn't taken a step back, in my opinion, from that moment. And that was 2023. It was a minute now. Like in Houston last season, I thought he looked really good in isolation, still showed the ability to beat man coverage. He was not just a pop gun slot guy, even if that's how he was used. And we didn't know what the hell he would look like after tearing his ACL in his 30s. Well, what do we know? A guy who is an outlier in terms of a day 3 draft pick who went on to become one of the 3 best receivers in pro football because he has an insane work ethic and is an elite tier technician, still has an elite work ethic, still is, you saw him on the sideline if you watch this game, just all the juice in the world. And of course, this was a big revenge spot. It was a personal moment for him, but that's how he's been in this New England Patriots situation. He's been a leader. Everybody's talked about it. And people talked about him in Houston like that last year too. Sometimes after a while, it burns out with Diggs, but when he's there, the first year or 2, it burns hot and it burns really well. And that's where he's at right now. So because of those things, he's able to kind of hang on to this diminished version from where he was as an elite receiver, but is still a really, really high quality starting top receiver. So he gives them that ability, which just fundamentally changes everything for this passing offense. That's why they signed him. That's why they went aggressive for him. Stefon Diggs, the first Patriots wide receiver to record back-to-back 100-yard receiving games in a season since Julian Edelman in 2019. That's from Diana Rossini of The Athletic. That's what this franchise has needed. That's what Drake Maye needed. That's why they gave him this contract. I loved the signing. The receipts are there. I love the signing. Even if it was risky, the reward is paying off here. The risk was worth the reward. Diggs is dialed in. Him and Drake Maye have a great chemistry. Drake Maye is a quarterback 1 in fantasy football, even if he didn't get a passing touchdown tonight. The fact he played this well on the road against a defense that isn't quite as great as it used to be, but is still well coached and can fool young quarterbacks, and threw a lot at him tonight. I think he's locked in. I think Stefon Diggs is going to be a steal where he went in drafts. He's going to continue to pile up these good numbers. He looks great right now. This Patriots offense looks great. But before we move on from the Patriots, obviously just want to touch on the running backs because I know that's what people want to talk about in fantasy. Two things we need to know. Ramondre Stevenson fumbled early in this game. Really nobody got the run game going here. But Stevenson did get back in the game and scored two red zone touchdowns here. His longest rush was 7 yards on the night. Antonio Gibson fumbled and then got injured on a kickoff return. That looked like a pretty serious injury. So we might cut this backfield down by unfortunate means here because of Gibson's injury from 3 guys to 2 guys, which will definitely change the picture for Stevenson and TreVeyon Henderson. But I would just say this to the TreVeyon Henderson backers out there. I get it. It's been frustrating to see Ramondre Stevenson out there, but I think if you take away the fumbles, which I know is silly because fumbles obviously matter. If you take away the fumbles, I just don't think there's been this great case to say that TreVeyon Henderson has been so good that he needs to take the job away from Ramondre Stevenson. They might get him more involved now that Antonio Gibson looks like he will be missing some time with a serious injury. We'll wait to see the updates on that. But I just don't think if you honestly watch TreVeyon Henderson in isolation, I don't think he's been bad or anything like that. I don't think he's playing poorly, although he has made some mistakes in pass protection, which is uncharacteristic because that's where they need him to be great. I just don't think this is one of those situations where he has been so overwhelmingly good where they need to cast away a veteran who, yes, Ramondre Stevenson's making some mistakes, but he's also making good productive runs for this ball club right now. So to me, I just don't know that there's this big case for Henderson to get a change in usage. Right now, he remains a guy that I think is a bench hold. You don't want to drop him, but I do think right now he is a bench hold. We'll see again if his usage changes with Antonio Gibson likely to miss some time here. And of course, Mike Vrabel did say after the game on Ramondre Stevenson's fumbling issue, we need to get it fixed because we need his ability and skill set. And I think that's the key right there. They need what he brings to the table. He's played pretty well outside of the fumbles, which again, can't yada the fumbles, but he brings something that they do need. All right, let's go to the Bills here. Weird night from a fantasy standpoint because, of course, the one that everybody is going to be disappointed in here is James Cook, who 15 carries, 49 yards, and in the passing game, nothing there. So very disappointing outing for James Cook. His first disappointing outing of the fantasy season. You know, that stinks. It's going to happen. They did talk a little bit this past week, did the Buffalo Bills, about how they know that they needed to lighten the load on James Cook. And, you know, to a degree, I think that kind of happened here. 78.9% of the running back touches, just 59% of the snaps. It wasn't as if we saw Ray Davis or Ty Johnson really go crazy here or anything like that, but it's a slight dip in terms of the touch load from the 81% that he was at in weeks 1 to 4. I also think the Patriots defense just played good physical ball up front, and we're like, hey, we're not going to get run over. We're not going to let this, gap heavy team push us around up front. You definitely felt that from the Patriots defense, and I just don't think they were all that scared. It sounds stupid to say this. It's flat out stupid to say this because it's Josh Allen, and he obviously, outside of one interception where he kind of forced the ball, he had a good night throwing the football around the yard. 8.2 yards per attempt, 71% completion rate. It wasn't as if he was bad or anything. They just don't have a lot of guys that scare you. I always feel like I come away from a Bills game, like in a big spot like this, just wishing they had one more real deal outside receiver. Dalton Kincaid has been impressive. He's not a full-time player because obviously he's not a big time asset as a true inline blocker at the tight end position, or at least that's what their usage has been telling us. That being said, career high receiving yards, 108 yards tonight. He's been effective, but from a snap perspective, he is at 47 snaps in this game, which is behind James Cook at 78, Keon Coleman 73, Khalil Shakir 60, Dawson Knox 53, Jackson Hawes 47, same amount of snaps as Dalton Kincaid. He runs 33 routes, which is still under 50%. So he's making plays when being called upon, which is good to see. That needs to continue to happen. That's the last 2 weeks, by the way, in terms of participation and snaps for the Bills offensive players there. So that's not just this one game sample. That's kind of how it's been. And I think it's going to remain the case in terms of the priority and the pecking order here. Dalton Kincaid, though, I think, I probably think he's more of a hold than a sell high, just because you can't really get that much more predictable production at tight end. So I generally think that he's a guy I kind of want to hang on to here. I don't know if he's going to be a top 5 tight end rest of the way, but I do think he can. I think he's legitimately taken a step forward as a player and can hang on to a top 10 tight end status here rest of the way. But, the wide receivers, again, I don't want to just bang on this drum every single week, but I know they've got this whole everybody eats thing. I mean, who's really eating here? Like guys are producing solidly, but it just feels like they do lack one real deal separator here. I'm not sure where that guy comes from. Khalil Shakir is good in his role. Keon Coleman obviously is a jump ball threat, but does get the touchdown, but also 7 targets, just 23 yards in this game. That's how it's going to go. It's going to be up and down for Keon Coleman, better and best ball type guy. Josh Palmer, wide receiver 3 type, but probably overstretched in this role. Curtis Samuel, my guy, pops up here for a receiving touchdown, but he just runs 41% of the routes in this game. So this is who the Bills are. It doesn't really matter for Josh Allen from a fantasy standpoint because he ran for 53 yards. He threw for 253, threw for 2 touchdowns. Nobody cares. He's going to keep it moving as a quarterback 1. But I think in these big games, the lack of a perimeter receiver that can beat cornerbacks like Christian Gonzalez and Carlton Davis in man coverage, I do think you're going to feel that every now and again for this team.